Okay, let's talk for a minute about podcast stats.
So Libsyn is a great podcast hosting company. SoundCloud is another one that's great. The reason that we do both is because we like to have redundancy in our systems so that if Libsyn goes down, this podcast is still available on SoundCloud. We also like to use SoundCloud in blog posts because their HTML5 media player has mobile-friendly aspects to it. So people who look up your podcast on your blog and they see the SoundCloud media player, they can play it directly there. Libsyn also has a lot of other podcast-specific tools that make it sometimes preferable to SoundCloud. Now let's say that somebody goes to your blog and you have a Libsyn player. Now this listener is listening directly to your Libsyn account. That means that this listener is being counted under your Libsyn download statistics for one. Now Libsyn is actually the hosting service that we use for most of our podcasts. This means that if somebody listens to your podcast on iTunes, say they download it from iTunes, they listen to the podcast from here. And so this is them as a listener. And now so iTunes pulls the podcast directly from Libsyn, which means that now Libsyn stats are going to show that there's been 2 listens, even though iTunes will only show 1. Now if somebody listens to the media player that's on your blog post, this is hosted from SoundCloud specifically. So as you can see, if you do this, SoundCloud is going to be counted as a subscriber here. And this means that your podcast is going to have overall 3 downloads, but there's only going to be 1 recorded in SoundCloud, and then there's going to be 2 recorded on Libsyn, but there's only going to be 1 on iTunes.
The question is, why is this important? It's important because sometimes getting more attention and showing more downloads through iTunes can be beneficial because then you'll get higher on the iTunes charts, and if you get higher on the iTunes charts, you're exposed to a greater audience. And that's how we think about podcast statistics.